Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday. We are now at quorum. We will convene the November 21st MCE Board of Directors meeting at 6:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Yes. Belvedere,
Yes.
Benicia,
Yes.
Concord,
Yes.
Contra Costa County, Corte Madera, Danville,
Here.
El Cerrito,
Here.
Fairfax,
Here.
Fairfield,
Here.
Hercules,
Here.
Lafayette, Larkspur, County of Marin, Martinez, Mill Valley. Thank you. Moraga,
Here.
Napa,
Here.
the County of Napa and 4 Napa cities,
Here.
Novato,
Here.
Oakley,
Here.
Pinal,
Here.
Pittsburgh,
Here.
Pleasant Hill,
Here.
Richmond,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
San Anselmo,
Here.
San Pablo,
The opposite of what I think.
San Rafael.
Here.
Thank you. San Ramon,
Here.
Sausalito, Solano,
If you're talking county, yes. Duh, never mind. It's been a long day. Oh, God. Oh,
you.
let me just go to my happy place.
So that was Solano, right? Okay. Tiburon, Vallejo,
Present.
Walnut Creek,
Present.
quorum established.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Brown, for that good laugh. We needed that. All right. The next item is board announcements. Are there any board announcements from directors? All right. Seeing none, hearing none. Moving on to public open time. This item is an opportunity for members of the public to make public comment on any item that's not on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak? I know we don't have any members of the public here in Concord. Do we have any members of the public on Zoom or in San Rafael?
We do not have any members of the public here in San Rafael, and I see no raised hands on Zoom.
All right. Thank you. Next item is the report from our CEO. I'll turn it over to you, Dawn.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. And we've got some images here to go with the report. This is a slide from our recent board retreat where we toured a battery facility. But let's move on to the next one. I wanted to give a special shout out to our 2 board members, Director Lawrence Gulati and Director Murphy, who attended the Lean CCA conference in Washington, D.C. On October 8th through 10th. So y'all made a long trip out there, and I just wanted to give you a big thank you and acknowledge the efforts of going out there and give you a moment if you'd like to report out on anything that you experienced while you were there.
Sure, thank you for that. I think everybody loves MCE. They are like in awe. How do you do it? How do you do it? You were the first one in California. So it was really nice to see other agencies from all over the United States as well. Only 10 states are allowed to have CCAs, which is shocking to me. But I think it felt really good being representing MCE, where people are really excited and really want to know everything about how MCE got to be where we are right now. So thank you.
And I think Director Murphy is not with us, but just making sure. Otherwise,
I am here for
Oh,
this hour. Good evening.
wonderful. All right.
Yes, I know.
I know you.
I think she covered it, by the way, so I will just be brief and say thank you for the opportunity, and it was great to represent this board there.
And you spoke on our behalf. So big thanks to you for that. Also, the fall tends to be conference season in the energy space. And so there's a couple of others I wanted to highlight here. We were invited to present at the California Economic Summit in Sacramento, where we got right after our presentation, the governor showed up and spoke. So that was exciting. I'm hoping that he was there to hear my final remarks on the panel because they were kind of directed at him around saving our energy efficiency programs because they're so important. But it was a great opportunity to connect with a very big audience. There were over 1,000 decision makers there and stakeholders. So that was a great opportunity for MCE. We also were invited to present at the CPUC Supplier Diversity En Banc in Riverside the very next day, in fact. And that was a panel discussion where they had MCE on a panel with the CEO of Southern California Edison, PG&E, and San Diego Gas and Electric. So it was an honor to be included in the panel, and we had an opportunity to showcase some of the great stuff we're doing around workforce development and supplier diversity. And then last of all, we were invited to present at the CAISO Stakeholder Symposium on October 30th. We were the only CCA invited to speak, and we were asked to talk about our virtual power plant. And I think that's pretty exciting. It was a one-day conference, and of all the things CAISO has to be working on and talking about, I think it's pretty noteworthy that they were interested in hearing about our virtual power plant and the things that we're doing behind the meter to help stabilize the grid. So very exciting. I just wanted folks to know about MCE being represented in these venues. And let's move to the next slide. I wanted to report out on a very successful ComPow meeting that we had just last Friday. This is the Community Power Coalition. First time that we put on a symposium, and it was very well attended. We had 70 folks RSVP. It was held in our Concord office where many of us were today having a meeting of XCOM, but it was a very diverse group. There were folks from all over our service area, a lot of local advocacy groups. We had promotoras from, I believe, the Walnut Creek area. We had a lot of groups represented, and it was filled with a lot of panel discussions, and folks stuck around on a Friday afternoon all the way till 3:30 to stay engaged. So that was a big success, and we're excited about hosting another one next year. And I undercounted 80 RSVPs, so very exciting. Let's move on to the next slide. Just a big thank you to the board members that participated in our board retreat. It was really successful. It was at a great venue in Pittsburgh. It included a tour of a battery storage facility in the Pittsburgh Unified School District, where they're also doing solar and wind, and a lot of great innovative stuff there. And then a large battery storage facility that we also got to tour. So thanks so much for setting aside time to participate in that. And we are going to be sending out post-retreat surveys again to you yesterday. We haven't gotten a lot of them in yet, but we'd really love your feedback on what we could do differently going forward. And that will also help us with our agenda setting going into 2025. So please keep an eye out on your inboxes for that survey that Jessica is going to send your way tomorrow. And next slide. We have a couple of big funding wins that I wanted to announce. First of all, we were recently notified of a $5 million grant award from the California Energy Commission for our virtual power plant Flex program. And this is what we've been waiting for. This is our opportunity to take the pilot in Richmond that has been very successful so far and grow it beyond Richmond into other communities. So we're very excited about the opportunity. It's going to span 25 through 29, so it's a multi-year grant. And it's going to provide the opportunity for a lot of testing and finding really the most affordable pathways to implement a VPP program and then scale it up. I also want to pay huge kudos to our team because MCE had the highest applicant score, the highest score I've ever seen of a CEC grant. So really great job to our team of staff and a support agency. It was a great effort. And then also I wanted to point out that we got a $4 million award of CPUC funds that we can use to also scale up the work that we're doing in our VPP program. So these are funds that we are have asked the CPUC to allow us to use for VPP, EV chargers, appliances, battery, EV charging, bidirectional charging. A lot of the innovative stuff that we're doing through the VPP will be enabled through this $4 million allocation. So big kudos to our staff for submitting that application and getting that award. And next slide. Wanted to make sure folks are aware that at our last technical committee meeting, we approved our power content label. And it's really exciting to see what we accomplished despite a really difficult market. Our 2023 highlights are that our power supply was 100% fossil free. Our deep green local soul and green access customers continue to all be receiving carbon-free energy, and our light green product is 99.9% carbon-free. And this is based on current accounting mechanisms. One of the things that we talked about in TechCom is that we're expecting the accounting mechanisms to change in the future. We may be shifting to a 24/7 tracking methodology in the next 4 to 5 years. So we're starting to adjust the way that we do our procurement to shift to that accounting. We may not be seeing such great numbers after that accounting approach changes. So just a warning that this is good news, but we may take a few years for us to adjust to the new accounting rules if they change in the way we're expecting. But really a fantastic year. Big thanks to the board for all the efforts to secure this green energy supply, which is really our core mission at MCE. Next slide. These are the details of our power content label. This is available to you if you want to dig into the numbers. It is pretty fun to compare how we're doing to the typical California power mix. Without MCE, we might be getting power that looks a lot like that. So again, big thanks for all the support on getting across the finish line there. Next slide. I want to make sure you noticed in the real-time packet we sent around an acknowledgement video from Senator Dodd, who is the recipient of our Climate Action Leadership Award for 2024. We don't have this on the agenda tonight in the interest of time, but we wanted to really highlight the contributions of Senator Dodd, really supporting MCE and being a climate champion. So we want to big shout out and thanks to him for all his efforts. Feel free to take a look at that video when you have a moment. And next slide. We are kicking off our 2024 Charles McGlashan Award process. So if you are aware of any local groups, advocates that you think have really gone above and beyond to promote MCE, promote the vision and the values of MCE, you could consider nominating them or suggest to them that they consider nominating themselves. We'll be looking at nominations in the new year and bringing a few options for XCOM and then the board to consider for approval. And next slide. This is a bittersweet slide. This is a hard slide for me to look at. I think a lot of us, we're going to be losing a few of our board members, and this is tough because we've spent a lot of time together. We've worked on a lot of challenging and exciting initiatives, and we really hate to lose board members that have been a part of this organization. So I wanted to take a moment to pause and acknowledge these folks who have been with us and contributed so much. Director Feynman from San Anselmo, Director Fong from Danville, Ryan Gregory, who's represented the County of Napa and many of the cities within Napa, Director Kelman from Sausalito, Director Perkins from San Ramon, Director Rice representing the County of Marin, Director Rinn from Pleasant Hill, and Director Wernick from Novato. Big thanks to all of you for your contributions. We hope you won't be a stranger. We'll continue to keep you looped into the work that we're doing, and you're always welcome at our meetings. And we hope you'll stick around in your community so that we can stay in touch. All right, and next slide. I think that brings us to the final announcement, which is our holiday party. So those of you who are departing board members, we especially want one more chance to see you. We hope you'll come and join us on Friday, December 6th for our holiday party. It's going to be at a great location this year in Benicia. Y'all have gotten the invitation. Hopefully you've all RSVP'd, but if not, you've got one more day to do that. You're welcome to bring a guest. You can just put down the name of your guest. We'll make sure they're included in the check-in area. There's dedicated parking at the venue, but there might be a bit of traffic that day. We've been warned because of a tree lighting ceremony. So plan ahead for time on that. And please join us. It should be a good time, and we'd love to see all of you there. And that's it for my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dawn. Are there any questions from directors here in Concord for Dawn? Any questions from San Rafael?
I have one. Could you just talk just a little bit about the accounting change and how that's going to affect the label?
This is the 24/7 accounting change that we talked a bit about at the board retreat, and we'll be talking about it more next year in our committees and at the board level. But it's a pretty detailed discussion, so probably not a great time to dive into that beyond that. But happy if you take a look at your board retreat material, you'll see it in there.
Do we have any public comment via Zoom? Oh, sorry.
Director Thier has her hand raised.
Yes. Director Thier?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to take a moment to congratulate our staff on getting yet more grants. That's amazing. Thank you for doing that work. And also to say a very heartfelt thank you and fond farewell to people who, for whom this is the last meeting. Thank you for all your work. And I know we're gonna miss you guys. So thank you.
Are there any additional directors that would like to make comments in San Rafael?
I see no raised hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I just want to share the same sentiments. You know, when you're on these boards, you build relationships and you contribute for over the years. So we truly thank you for your service. We all understand what public service look like and all the hard work that you all put into it. And some of you will see in other roles because they are moving on to greater things. But I get to stay though. But we really do appreciate all that you have done for MCE and your communities. Thank you. All right. We will move on to item number 5. It's our consent calendar. Would any of the directors like to remove any items from the consent calendar? All right. Seeing none, hearing none. Are there any comments from members of the public via Zoom?
I see no raised hands, Chair.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move the consent calendar, item 5.
Darling will second.
All right, so
Armand.
first by Director Perkins, second by Director Darling. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Belvedere,
Yes.
Venetia,
Yes.
Concord,
Yes.
Danville,
Yes.
El Cerrito,
Yes.
Fairfax,
Yes.
Fairfield,
Yes.
Hercules,
Yes.
Lafayette,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Mill Valley,
Yes.
Moraga, Moraga.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes. Napa,
Yes.
the County of Napa and 4 Napa cities,
Yes.
Novato,
Yes.
Oakley,
Aye.
Pinole,
Aye.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pleasant Hill,
Aye.
Richmond,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
San Anselmo,
Yes.
San Rafael,
Aye.
San Ramon,
Yes.
Solano.
Yes. I remembered who I was.
Thank you. Vallejo,
Aye.
Walnut Creek.
Yes.
Are there any other board members that were not called? Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 6. Next, we have a resolution honoring Director Perkins, which will be introduced by Dawn.
Great. I just wanted to take a moment to give a special thank you to Director Perkins. We have a lot of board members that are with us for varying periods of time. And whenever we have a board member who's been with us for 5 years or more, we like to do a resolution honoring the service that he's provided. And so I'd like to, you'll have the resolution in your packet. And as I'm tempted to read it, in the interest of time, I won't read through it, but I would like to pause and give an opportunity to any directors who would like to make any comments regarding Director Perkins' service, both on the board and also at the committee level for many years, 7 years, I believe it is. So a big thank you to Director Perkins, and I'll pause if anyone else would like to make any comments.
No, I want to add one thing, Scott. Really appreciate a ton of discussions we have had. As an engineer, I appreciate your dive into the data and technology and analytics, and really appreciate how much you support MCE and staff and whatever that we do. In addition, you were never shy about asking data from us. So even though super narrow margins in timeline, but we provided and you were happy with it. So thank you so much for everything you've done for MCE.
And Director Perkins, I just want to thank you for your shout out that you did at the recent mayor's conference that we had. I mentioned it to a couple of people earlier today, but last week at the mayor's conference in Contra Costa County, you gave a wonderful shout out and really highlighted the work that MCE is doing, and I was very appreciative of that. Thank you.
And if I might add one other thing, I remember when you first joined the board, Director Perkins, I would say you might have been a little bit of a skeptic about all this green energy stuff. And I really appreciate how you asked a lot of questions, really listened and dug in, and urged us to look at, get into the details on things in a way that made the communication even clearer to the public. And I think that you not only created a lot of great dialogue between your community and our agency, but you also helped bring the work of MCE to your community in new ways. You nominated us for the WOW Awards, and you really deepened the understanding in San Ramon for what MCE is doing. I think that the community itself was a bit skeptical at the beginning, and because of your service, you've really created an amazing bridge of dialogue both directions. We're really grateful to you for that.
You were right. I was a little skeptical, but once I got into the numbers and worked with you and Vicken and some of the other staff, got to understand the program more and more. And I really believe that this is possibly the best run. I'm on 7 regional boards. This is possibly the best run one of them all. And I'm very grateful for you and the staff and all the other board members that make MCE such a great part of the community. And it really helps when you start to do your climate action plan in your cities to know that you're getting your power and it's 99% fossil fuel free. And I'm just thrilled to have been part of this for the last 7 years. Now we're going to see. Thank you.
We have another raised hand here in San Rafael.
Yeah, Scott, it's Gabe Quinto and El Cerrito. I personally want to thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you the last 10 years. You and I belong to a number of boards together, including the Mayor's Conference and Cal Cities, and LAFCO as well. I was counting on you to be chair of LAFCO next year, and know how much you're appreciated. And as our scientist on the board, appreciate that you always requested the data, and the data proves everything. So I learned a lot from you, and I learned how to work in a nonpartisan way and to work bipartisan and to just get along. And I learned that from you through the years. And so you are going to be missed in Contra Costa and here on MCE. So know how much you're appreciated. I know you'll be traveling. I remember recently you showed me your photos from Alaska and Canada. So I look forward to your next chapter. And thank you for all your work that you've done through the years for MCE and Contra Costa County.
Well, thank you very much, Gabe. And I congratulate you on your now, first vice president of Cal Cities and soon to be our next president of Cal Cities. And I know you'll do a fabulous job there. You've been so thoughtful throughout all our county projects and boards and things. So best of luck to you.
Thank you.
I'll be watching for the no votes.
There will be no votes, I'm sure, on this at all.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Well, Director, before we make the motions, I just want to share, Director Perkins, I have truly enjoyed working with you as well. And as Gabe shared, you being a scientist from Lawrence Livermore Lab, you brought a different perspective to the board. And that's what makes MCE so great, right? All of our backgrounds are different and we all bring different perspectives. But your work shows how data, drives our work each and every day. And so with your service here, we just want to really thank you. And I'm sure we will see you around when you're not traveling. You'll have to come and visit us at a League of California meeting or Mayor's Conference. Oh, yeah, Mayor's Conference in July, San Ramon. So we'll see you there. All right. Do I have any directors that would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make that motion. Gabe Quinto.
I'll second that motion. Nakamura, Concord.
All right. So we have a motion made by our Vice Chair, Gabe Quinto, and then a seconded by Director Laura Nakamura. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Belvedere,
Yes.
Benicia,
Yes.
Concord,
Yes.
Danville,
Absolute pleasure, yes.
El Cerrito,
Yes.
Fairfax,
Yes.
Fairfield,
Yes.
Hercules,
Yes.
Lafayette,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Mill Valley,
Yes.
Moraga.
Aye.
Thank you. Napa,
Yes.
the County of Napa and 4 Napa cities,
Yes.
Novato,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Pinal,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pleasant Hill,
Yes.
Richmond,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
San Anselmo,
Yes.
San Rafael,
Yes.
San Ramon,
Yes.
Solano,
Yes.
Tiburon,
Yes.
Vallejo,
Aye.
Walnut Creek.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So I think that was the most important agenda item tonight, so we can be done. Yes. All right. So moving on to item number 7. Next, we have a resolution accepting the federal earmark award. Next, we'll hear from Catalina, our general counsel, who will lead this discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, directors. I have the pleasure to ask for you all to review the proposed resolution, which will accept award funds for MCE's 4th federal earmark. Under this proposed resolution, the funds would be to support MCE's Enabling Electrification Program, which will assist low-income houses in MCE's footprint to provide the kind of prehabilitation, construction, and electrical that's needed to install clean energy electrification technologies. And so under this proposed resolution, MCE is going to receive $850,000 under the award, and we would match with $170,000, making the total project impact be $1,020,000. And so with the proposed resolution, we'll be able to accept the awarded funds, enter into the necessary agreements with HUD that will be administering the grant, and then implement the program.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from directors?
Yes, this is Micah from San Rafael. I was curious to see how is the agency going to determine where these upgrades are needed. And by the way, congratulations. This is another huge win. So thank you.
Thank you. I also wanted to say congratulations, appreciate our partners that joined me in Washington, D.C. when we did get this a year or two ago, and know that with the incoming administration, I'm not sure if we're going to get any thing like an earmark in the future, at least the next 4 years. So know how much important it is that we got this through. Supporting challenged cities, and this is going to be such a gift for challenged communities that really need this. So again, congratulations. Appreciate Stephanie Chen, who supported us on this trip, and hopefully we will be able to do this again in the future.
Thank you. And in response to your question, The customers who are able to utilize these funds will be determined through our existing customer programs. So we'll be funneling these funds through our programs, prioritizing equity customers, and it'll be through an eligibility process where customers apply through our programs and we determine that these funds are necessary for them.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any public comment via Zoom?
I see no raised hands, Chair.
All right. Do we have any of the directors would like to make a motion on this item?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Director Meadows, seconded by Director Murphy. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Belvedere,
Yes.
Benicia,
Yes.
Concord,
Yes.
Danville,
Yes.
El Cerrito,
Yes.
Fairfax,
Yes.
Fairfield,
Yes.
Hercules,
Yes.
Lafayette,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Mill Valley,
Yes.
Moraga, Moraga.
Aye.
Thank you. Napa,
Yes.
the County of Napa and 4 Napa cities,
Yes.
Novato,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Pinal,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pleasant Hill,
Yes.
Richmond, Richmond. Thank you. Ross,
Yes.
San Anselmo,
Yes.
no, not San.
Rafael.
San Rafael,
Yes.
San Ramon,
Yes.
Solano.
Cash it fast. Yes.
Thank you. Tiburon,
Yes.
Vallejo,
Aye.
Walnut Creek.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So this is our last discussion / action item for this evening. Item number 8 is a bi-directional vehicle pilot. This item will be introduced by Vicken.
Yeah. So we're the last item between us leaving and, we'll hurry it up. So Zay and team has done a really great presentation. I just, in looking forward to your input and questions and what have you. This is really challenging in future, looking at the future. I just wanted to introduce to you all a new addition to our finance team, Greg Tillman as the Associate Director of Rates. Budget and rates go hand in hand, and we're looking forward what 2025 is going to do to us. So he just joined on October 25th, our team, several weeks ago. He comes from Liberty Utilities, where he led the rate design efforts, focusing on modernizing the rates and rate structures across a portfolio of 15 electric, water, and gas utilities in Northern America. Greg designed and introduced Liberty's first community solar project to customer in Southwest Missouri, and advanced battery storage and time of use rates in New Hampshire. Before Liberty, Greg worked with Walmart's energy department, where he advocated in over 40 regulatory proceedings for more effective rates and to advance the availability of renewable energy options within utility retail offerings. By the way, can we see Greg? You see? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Thank you, Greg, for being there. Before Walmart, he managed the pricing and load research teams at Oklahoma Gas and Electric, where he was instrumental in designing and implementing a smart hour rate, a dynamic pricing rate for residential and small commercial customers. And since 1990, Greg has worked at various regulated and deregulated energy and energy information companies, where he has managed technology initiatives in energy pricing, billing, metering, and rate design. He has a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, so Director Perkins, you like that, from University of Tulsa, and he has served in the United States Army as communications officer until 1990. So Greg and his wife Laura have 4 boys and 2 girls. So welcome aboard, Greg.
Thank you, Vicken. Appreciate it.
Sure.
It's nice to
And
meet
Zay,
you all virtually.
you're welcome. Zay, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Vicken. Good evening, directors. Zay Perrin, Vice President of Customer Operations. As Vicken mentioned, we're very excited to propose the MCE bidirectional vehicle tariff for your approval. Senate Bill 59, introduced by Senator Nancy Skinner, was signed by Governor Newsom on September 27th of this year. The first in the nation bidirectional charging bill authorizes the California Energy Commission to require that electric vehicles sold in California be equipped with bidirectional charging capabilities, allowing them to export stored electricity back to the grid, also known as vehicle to grid, or supply power on site, like vehicle to home. This provision will enhance grid stability by expanding flexible storage capacity, helping balance supply and demand. Guided by MCE's values of innovation, equity, and sustainability, staff is proposing a first-of-its-kind bidirectional tariff pilot to help grow the use of these charging technologies by incentivizing their use through bill credits during peak hours, encouraging both residential and non-residential electric vehicle owners to support grid resilience and energy efficiency while lowering costs. Next slide. So in the following slides, Jared and Greg will present the bidirectional vehicle charging landscape and the tariff's requirements and goals. Next slide, and I'll kick it over to Jared.
Thank you, Zay, and good evening, directors. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of the bidirectional charging tariff, we'd first like to give a quick overview of the technology and the potential for the technology to grow. Please progress the slide. When we think of the typical solar to home setup, this is a unidirectional flow of energy, or a one-way flow of energy. The sun's power is converted to usable electricity through solar PV and inverted to the home to be able to be consumed on site. If there is no load at the home or business, this energy is then exported to the grid. Please progress the slide. Most solar energy today is being exported during the middle of the day when electricity prices are lowest and we have plentiful renewable energy already on the grid. Please progress the slide. When introducing an electric vehicle and one with bidirectional charging capabilities, this unlocks the battery of the EV to be a flexible capacity that can then import that electricity during the middle of the day when prices are lowest, and then export that energy during the peak pricing period of 4 to 9 p.m. When exported to the home or business, this reduces the customer's electricity costs. And when exported to the grid, this maximizes the credits earned by those customers by utilizing their electric vehicle's battery. Next slide, please. When we think of the bidirectional charging technology curve, we are in what would be considered the early adopter phase. And with all technology curves, you have relatively low growth in the first few years with the potential for exponential growth. As the technology progresses, more investments are made, and we reach economies of scale. There are many agencies, such as the Department of Energy, the California Energy Commission, and even private companies that are investing in this technology to accelerate the growth curve as they see the potential for this market. Seeing as MCE is an innovative leader in this space, we are proposing a tariff to accelerate this growth of bidirectional charging in our territory, while also incentivizing behaviors of these customers to best support the grid. Next slide. There are currently many manufacturers with electric vehicles that have bidirectional charging capabilities. Some of these include Nissan, Hyundai, Kia, Ford, Mitsubishi, Volkswagen, Genesis, and even some of the more EV-focused companies such as Tesla, BYD, and even Rivian are offering electric bidirectional technology in their vehicles. And companies such as GM have also pledged to have bidirectional charging be available across their EV fleets by 2026 as they see the potential in the market. Next slide. And I will pass it over to Greg, who will go more in depth into the pilot tariff.
And I will find my unmute button and begin speaking. Thank you, Jared, and good evening, board. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am very excited to be a part of the MCE team as we move forward with new innovative rates and a tariff such as what we're proposing tonight. We have a few goals by offering this tariff right now. Not the least of which is to help incentivize customers to actually implement bidirectional charging and to, while doing that, help them to implement it in such a way that their charging behavior reduces our peak loads and supports stability on our grids. The other things that we want to do with the tariff over the next few years as the technology grows and becomes more prevalent in our service area is we want to gauge our customers' interest in the adoption of the technology and really look hard at what value MCE can obtain from bidirectional charging, not the least of which of that value is going to come from our ability to reduce our costs in the marketplace by reducing our on-peak requirements and shifting those to the off-peak hours. The other thing we get out of this, and I like this one especially, is that we have a competitive offering. Our customers can come to us for bidirectional charging capabilities and not have to leave us to go to PG&E to get a V2G type pilot going on. Next slide. Just real quickly, within the tariff, we establish certain incentive rates, and these are really based on avoided costs and a look at our rates and how our rates work for our customers, our time of use rates. So the incentive rates during the summer for customers that take energy off of their vehicles and push it out to either their home or to the grid is 26 cents per kilowatt hour during the on-peak time period, 4 to 9 p.m. And in the winter, that's a little bit lower at 20 cents per kilowatt hour. We did cap these credits on a monthly bill to $70 for residential customers, increase that cap slightly to $90 if they are located in a disadvantaged community. For commercial, those same numbers are $300 cap and a $400 cap if they're in a disadvantaged community. Next slide, and back to Jared.
All right, thanks, Greg. So to participate in MCE's bidirectional EV tariff, there are a few requirements, including being enrolled in an eligible rate schedule. For residential customers, this would be the electric vehicle tariff rate schedule or the electrified home rate schedule. For businesses, this would be their applicable time of use rate or a business electric vehicle rate. All of these rates have a 4 to 9 p.m. peak period, which goes along with the directive of this tariff and the objective of the tariff to have customers importing during the off-peak and discharging those batteries during the peak pricing periods of the day. To also participate, you of course need to have installed a bidirectional EV charger with the capability to send electricity either to your home or back to the grid, and this will be verified through the application process. To prevent dual enrollment, we are requiring customers to only be participating in MCE's bidirectional charging program or our other load management programs, as we want to prevent dual crediting for customers that might be wanting to participate in other entities' programs. And finally, if a customer does have a compatible vehicle or charger, they would want to be enrolled in MCE Sync, which is our managed charging application, which I will go into detail on the next slide. So MCE Sync is a smart charging app that was launched in 2021, and this optimizes EV charging schedules for customers automatically by allowing them to program their chargers to discharge electricity and charge their vehicles during off-peak hours automatically. This reduces costs to the customer and also reduces the carbon footprint as they are maximizing their use of plentiful renewable energy. We have over 2,700 customers currently enrolled into EV Sync, and these customers have successfully shifted 96% of their charging needs to off-peak periods by using this app. This reduced the customer's grid strain during peak hours by nearly 90%. And in 2025, EV Sync will be offering a dynamic pricing program, which further incentivizes customers to charge when electricity prices are lowest on the wholesale market, such as those sunny spring days. And being an incentive-based program, MCE will need access to customers' data for monitoring and verification. Customer performance will be measured by obtaining charging data through either the MCE Sync app, access to a home area network device, or access through the bidirectional charger itself. If none of these solutions are available, MCE can work with customers on an individual basis to come up with other data sharing solutions. And I will pass it back to Greg to explore the fiscal impact.
So fiscal impact, and what we wanted to look at was how many customers we believe would enroll in this type of a program over the next couple of years. So we're thinking our expectations are not more than 100 residential customers and about 25 businesses. And that equates to bill credits over annual bill credits over that first couple of year period of about 79.5 maximum. That does not include any other, netting of that with any other reductions in our costs from reduced market expenses. So these bill credits will go to customers over that period, and in that time we'll evaluate the program and determine how to move forward with it as a fully available program. But as a pilot tariff, what we'll do is we'll reserve our right to limit participation, to be able to control fiscal impact, and to ensure that we're able to sustain the program for our customers. And with that, I will turn it back over to Jared, I believe.
Yep, thanks, Greg. So staff is very excited to promote and offer this bidirectional vehicle tariff pilot and would recommend that the board approve its implementation effective January 1st, 2025. And with that, we appreciate your attention and we will open up the floor to questions.
I have a question. Is the 79.5, is that net cost to us, or there must be some value of the electricity we're getting back? So I'd be interested in what is the net cost?
Yes, Director, there will be some value in the electricity that we're not purchasing on the market as customers dispatch their own from their vehicle. We have not assessed that yet, so we don't know exactly what the net impact will be, but definitely as a part of our understanding of this, we'll determine what kind of value for MCE is within that activity.
So how did you calculate the 79.5 as the likely cost to MCE? If you didn't know what um, the amount of electricity that would be back onto the grid from the vehicles.
Right. The 79.5 is specifically the bill credits that we would expect to pay to or not pay, but credit their bills over that period. It's not the net.
No, I
the
understand
actual
that, but how would
credit.
you calculate 79.5 if you didn't have any, you didn't say, well, I'm going to have 100 customers and they're each going to generate so much power back onto the grid, so you multiply, kilowatt hours and all that. So how do you figure 79.5 is the right number?
So the 79.5 is calculated by making some assumptions about the growth of the 125 customers on and identifying essentially how much we would expect each customer to discharge during the 4 to 9 time period over that time. So we calculated the number of kilowatt hours that we expect each customer to discharge from their vehicle and calculated the credits based on that number of kilowatt hours.
And Greg, if I may, I think what Director Perkins is getting at is how did we come up with the tariff amount? So our summer rate of 26 and our winter rate of 20. Is that what you're getting at, Director Perkins?
That's part of it, but if you assume that you get 100 and they're each getting $70 credit back every month, that's 100 times 70 times 12. That's more than 79 plus the 25 times 12 times 300. I could do that math if I wanted to, but I didn't.
We looked at part of the equation where we had clear data. We did not look at the value we would achieve by not buying the power in the market, because that is a little harder to predict. But you're right, there are two sides of the coin, and we've been conservative in estimating what the maximum cost would be to MCE. But as Greg said, we would net against that some savings, and that's something we'll be looking at very closely to calculate it, and then we can report out after. But sorry for jumping in, Greg, if there's more you want to say on that.
No, thank you. Thank you. And I'd just like to add to that, Director, that we did not assume that we would have 100 on board the first day. So there was a growth to the customer adoption process. So growing that up is where we ended up calculating the 79.5. It was as customers grew on the program.
I wouldn't assume you'd get 100 customers the first day, but at some mature date, you'd have 100 customers and you'd have 25 commercial customers. You can multiply the numbers out, and I just thought it would be not all that difficult to figure out how much power you would actually, if they were getting a $70 credit, how much power were we not having to buy?
And I would just add, so it's the 79.5 is a maximum cost for the first year, the first fiscal impact. And that is based off of assumptions for the different capacities for the vehicles that are already bidirectionally compatible. So based on the market and sales that we do know, we created this case scenario of what those capacities look like and what that maximum cost could end up being. And that's what we focused that on. Currently, there are 0 residential vehicles that are signed up as compatible or having a compatible charger. So the actual data for that consumption, it isn't there yet.
Can I ask, could you talk a little bit about the impact in terms of the impact in degrading the battery of the bidirectional charging?
Yeah, so this is still something that the manufacturers are looking into, but they are confident that having it discharged to, and one of the key assumptions we made was that customers would have a 30% reserve on that battery, so they're not fully draining it, which can degrade the battery even further. But we're assuming discharging and charging the battery would be within the parameters of a normal electric vehicle that's capable.
So the life expectancy on these batteries are no different than a life expectancy on any other electric car. Even though it's being charged and discharged more often, it would have the same life expectancy? Okay, thank you.
I also wanted to add one clarifying point that might help with some of the questions, which is the credit that we listed, the maximum of $70, for example. That's not what every customer is going to get every month. That's the maximum that they can achieve, just for when you're doing the math. So it wasn't just necessarily like 100 customers times $70 times 12, which is why those numbers don't add up exactly.
Director Brown?
Thanks. So as I was reading the PowerPoint, what is the definition of tariff? Because my mind goes elsewhere with the word tariff. So what does that mean when we talk about the vehicle tariff pilot? What is that definition of tariff? What does that mean?
Greg, you want to grab that one or?
Oh, I sure can. So when we talk about tariffs in the energy business, it's the definition of what we are providing to the customer and what the costs and or credits in this case are for that. It's simply the piece of paper that allows us to make an offering to a customer.
So my thought would be, as we switch from one president to another, that maybe we use some other word than tariff, only because there might be a lot of people who have that particular definition in their head for tariff, and then looking at this and going, wait a minute, I'm just saying, or maybe put the definition in. That's just me as somebody who likes econ, and it just wasn't making sense to me. So I think I get it, but I'm not sure if the rest of the world who wants to use this would be saying, a tariff, wait a minute, now I'm going to have to pay extra if you're paying attention to what's happening globally in DC. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for that feedback.
Understood,
And
thank you.
when we market it to customers and do our outreach, we have lots of tariffs or rate schedules, but we typically don't use the word tariff when we're speaking with our customers, and we'll be sure not to do that this time around too.
Thank you.
I just want to, I'm sorry. I just want to add a little bit of color. This is a really interesting project for MCE. But we have talked about virtual power plant to the board, to you know, quite a bit. So, you know, it's going to be really interesting for us to know what is the usage patterns of a customer. Where do they charge their car and where do they discharge? Southern California Edison is working on creating ID cards that wherever you charge your vehicle, it registers with Southern California Edison so that where you discharge to Edison, they'll know what you did, when you did, for how much, and they can give you credit. So the world is going to become a lot more interesting as we get into this, and hopefully our program will expand into over 100 because, you know, like Director Perkins asked, what is the value of this? You were paying almost $80,000. What are you getting in return? Well, we should be getting in return at least equal to that. It's going to be more when we work with the customer if they're willing and able to say, oh yeah, you know, bid me into that ISO market or provide ancillary services or whatever it is. So I just want to say that this is a really, really great start. I appreciate all the staff work that did on this, on how we're going to grow the logic, and how do we know who did what at the end of the day to pay them something, right? If they charge from MCE at low rates and they're discharging it at high value times, that would be the simplest thing to have. Oh, wow, that's great. But what if it was something else? What if they drove somewhere else to charge or they charge from MCE, they discharge it somewhere else. Our data tracking system needs to know that. Our technology and analytics team will work on that as well.
If I may follow up, that would be really good to get because at the Solano County, we are spending like $40 million to add in a lot of EV in our 6-story garages, and our other places that we own land, because we do have a lot of people who are charging, right, and driving, et cetera. That would be a really good incentive to what you're talking about, because we do have that issue. We have people that, spend too much time trying to charge and we don't have enough charging stations. So I'm just saying a lot of communities, and I know Benisha's adding stuff, a lot of cities are adding, and having that as an incentive would be really, really good.
Absolutely.
So I love that idea.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I would just add for the consideration regarding the charging of the batteries and the deprecation of the batteries, one of the considerations that we put into this program is the incentive by kilowatt hour, rather than stating that the customer has to go down to X level of their battery, because we do understand that life is life, and on one day you may need your battery so that you can leave and travel and do whatever it is that you need to do. So that was part of the consideration as well.
Director Nakamura.
Yeah, thank you. So I have two questions and a comment, and the two questions have to do with the cost of the bidirectional chargers and the cost of the second charge to make up for, you've got a charge, a discharge, and then you have to charge again. And so maybe that was all calculated into this, but it also sounds like the close to 80,000, what we're doing is that we're an investment in the data and in the analytics. So those other charges, those extra costs may not have come into this, but I'm curious as to what those other charges would have cost.
You mean data analytics charges?
No, so you've got the bidirectional charger,
Yes.
which is going to be an expense, and you've got the additional charge because you've discharged.
Okay.
And then, so there's a cost there. But maybe that doesn't matter, because for the 80,000 that this pilot program is going to take on, it's more about collecting data and the analytics. So I wonder if you can speak to that.
Does anyone from the team can talk about that? Go ahead as you see fit.
Want to go ahead, Greg?
Yeah, thank you, Director. And that's a good question. That's something that will happen. We believe that a part of what a customer will do is discharge during the on-peak and then charge during the off-peak period. In fact, that's what our sync program drives them to do. So we'll give them the credit for discharging during the on-peak, and they will recharge that at the lowest cost hours. So that's a part of the value that we really need to assess and figure out exactly what that is, and make sure that, one, our incentives are proper for what the customer is doing, and to determine the total value or the net value to MCE and our customer during that entire process. So those are things we need to learn. But the 79.5 is only about essentially the credits on the bill for discharging their vehicle. It didn't include any analysis around the recharging, if you will, nor the fluctuations in market prices during those times.
Yeah, and
If I could just
go ahead, Alice.
add to that. This is Alice, VP of Customer Programs. One potential is that customers use another tool such as MCE Sync to align their charging with when their solar panels, if they have them, are producing excess energy. So they could absorb that excess energy at lower cost times of day and discharge it during peak hours. So not that this offering is limited to that, but that would be a very, beneficial system for a customer to set up.
And I also want to add that For the majority of the vehicles that we saw presented earlier by Jared, those are vehicle to home compatible vehicles. And the majority of the ones that are coming off of the building line right now are also vehicle to home compatible, rather than vehicle to grid. There are only a few vehicle makes and models that will be vehicle to grid, which means that when the customer charges them in off-peak and they export during peak hours, they aren't getting charged for that export for peak because it's going directly into their home, which means that they aren't pulling down from the grid. So they have a cost savings because they aren't pulling down from the grid, and it doesn't cost them anything to transfer that energy from their vehicle into their home.
Say thank you for that. I appreciate that answer.
Building on to that, just one more thing I'll add is that, and clarify, is that we won't be purchasing the bidirectional charger for the customer. So they would be purchasing that themselves. And one of the incentives is for a customer to do that is being able to export power to your home. So you essentially have a battery in your car that can charge your home if the power goes out as well. So not only for daily peak load reduction, which just saves you on your bill, you can get a credit with MCE, but you can also have that extra reliability during a power outage.
Can I tag on to that? So my question was about the bidirectional charger. So I'm assuming, well, maybe I'm wrong, that anybody that's installed a level 2 charger in their homes at this point probably is not bidirectional, which means that, I mean, who right now has bidirectional chargers in their homes? Nobody. So we're really starting. So you're going to have to incentivize almost those folks who have not installed a charger yet, or are just getting an EV and are going to install a charger. You're going to need to capture that potential market. But I'm not going to go out and buy a bidirectional charger, right?
Maybe not, but do you have a battery in your home yet? And do you
No,
want one?
but
So then maybe instead of a
I
battery.
maximize my solar. But
Oh,
another
okay.
question.
But for a power outage, do you want backup power? I think it's like a creative
Right.
alternative that customers
I can
also
right into
consider.
my car.
Okay.
It's got my EV6. My other question was about people, folks who are not at home are charging elsewhere during the day. They're not. Car has to be at home to be taking advantage of that cheap solar right then. And a lot of the charging, and one of our colleagues talked about all the chargers being installed in their public facilities, right? And we have a ton here in Marin County. And a lot of charging is happening at work. But this is sort of a sidebar. The chargers are not being kept up and they're failing. And I'm wondering if because we're interested in maximizing how people use their little pieces of their own mini grids, how much advocacy is MCE doing towards pushing regulation around uptime of chargers that are out there in the public sphere? Because it's really key to maximizing this kind of program.
That's such a good point. I think it's something we've talked about internally as staff quite a bit lately. It's a problem we're experiencing in our very own parking lot. It's those O&M costs of keeping the chargers up. Some charging companies have gone out of business and aren't keeping them up. Sometimes some are just handing them off and then not providing maintenance. So it's definitely an industry problem. And we haven't taken any active advocacy position legislatively on this, but it's a pretty good idea for maybe, a bill, some type of regulation and oversight over this. I know that some IRA funds have gone to EVgo recently through the DOE. So a lot, like in the billions. So, I'm hoping there may be some more consistency and maintenance that happens to these chargers. But you're raising a point I hadn't thought of. Maybe there's the silver lining of this is that as chargers are getting replaced, maybe they'll go for the bidirectional next time around, and maybe that will allow for more capability. But I just want to underline what has been presented, but maybe not highlighted enough, that this is a pushing of the envelope type of tariff. We expect our community to grow in this direction anyway, and we want to be ready for that when it starts to happen. We did the same thing with a battery tariff many years ago. When we first approved our battery tariff, no one really had a battery yet. They were just starting to be adopted. And now we have a lot of customers using that tariff. We expect the same thing to happen with this bidirectional tariff. It's kind of the, if you build it, they will come mentality. And I think the Skinner bill that Zay touched on at the beginning here is part of the momentum that is going to help get this going. But the car manufacturers still aren't quite there, as Jared mentioned. So we're really just trying to spark something and be ready as the adoption happens in the future.
Yeah, totally makes sense. But I would encourage you to think more about getting in that space on the advocacy, because regardless of this program, which I think is really innovation, exactly the kind of place we want to see MCE going, staying ahead of things, learning, see where we can push behavior. Bottom line, we want people taking advantage of the cheap energy, clean energy that's on the grid during the day. And more it's going to be cars charging. So we want to make sure whatever charging infrastructure is out there, whether it's in your home or wherever it is actually working. It benefits MCE.
Chair, we have a couple of raised hands here in San Rafael, Director Feynman and Director Ackerman.
All right, Director Feynman.
Thank you. So I have a lot of questions, and I think some of them are unanswerable, and I think that's part of the project is to start to kind of get some of those answers.
We are going to miss you.
Thank you. But I guess what I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around, like in the simplest terms, is let's say that I have an EV that's in a bidirectional charger setup, and I have, 1 kilowatt hour of energy, and it's 5 p.m., that I want to do something with. And I can either, cook dinner on my induction cooktop and use that kilowatt hour or whatever, or I can sell it back to the grid. What's the order of operations in terms, what's the ideal kind of prioritization of should the battery be supporting home energy use during that window, or should it be going back to the grid and then I'm selling and buying at the same time, or am I just kind of my own little microgrid? And what's the priority there, I guess, is the question.
Greg, you want to grab that one?
So yeah, that's a really technical question, but the answer is simply you replace your home's consumption before you push back out to the grid. You can only sell or buy at any given point in time. So technically, you actually fulfill your home's needs and then push energy back out to the grid.
Okay, so
does that answer your question, Director? I'm sorry.
I think so. I'll respond with another question, or with how I'm interpreting it, which is let's say actually that I have 2 kilowatt hours stored up and I want to cook and, see, and that's going to use half of it. So I would basically be 0 when I'm cooking on that during, using half of my stored energy for dinner, because I'm not buying or selling. I'm just, taking something that I already bought it, but
you're meeting your own demand.
And then it's when I start to exceed my own demand that I'm then getting, 26 cents per kilowatt hour or whatever it is.
No, the tariff itself is set up that discharging from your vehicle is what gives you the credit. So you're actually reducing your consumption and getting 26 cents for satisfying it yourself. That's the way the tariff works.
But only only with the surplus after I've done my own, taken care of my own stuff.
No, if it's coming,
MCE would pay you because MCE doesn't have to provide that kilowatt that you use for cooking. You get paid for that just as well as the extra kilowatt that you didn't use and someone else gets to use.
Okay.
You get paid for both of those kilowatts.
Got it. So it's monitoring also how much energy I'm using during that window, even if I'm not buying it from MCE. There's something that's not quite clicking for me.
Well, it's not monitoring
it's
how much
monitoring your car charger. It just sees the energy coming out of your car.
Okay.
That's it.
Director Ackerman answered it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. That's exactly correct.
Okay. So I think that's it. And so the second question I have is obviously because this is very new, and I think some of us, we've kind of seen like with solar, the net energy metering changes and how, there's questions around whether that price was, kind of overly generous and created kind of, there's a lot of open questions and some debate about the consequences of it on either side. My question is, let's say the program is super successful and gets going and whatnot, what kind of, what rights are we reserving to adjust the pricing or dealing with issues of grandfathering if we kind of, if we overshoot essentially? Because I feel like there's just a lot of unknowns and a lot of weird, I don't know, like arbitrage going on and stuff like that.
You're correct. And at the end of the day, why we want to get in early is so that we can learn those lessons early while we have a low count of customer participation. But as we move forward, we certainly will have to make those assessments. And if we need to make changes to how we're crediting customers, how we're measuring their energy, how the program's working itself, then we can do that early as opposed to after it becomes a real issue in the face of customer growth. So as we grow it, we will be learning the lessons, and if we have to make modifications to the program, and we talked about in the presentation that we might limit the number of participants at some point if we need to keep that cap lower. But as we move forward and we learn the lessons, we can make modifications to the tariff itself and meet those needs.
And that is why we instituted that cap.
That's the amount of money you credit back.
Director Hills?
Yes, that's effectively.
Yes, thank you. So just some questions here to be sure I understand part of the discussion. So I have batteries on my house. Say that I also had a bi-directional charger installed. Because my car, I guess, would be enrolled in the program, MCE would be able to tell which electrons came from my car battery versus which ones came from my house battery to determine the incentive? Yes, okay. The other question that I have is I know PG&E is also offering incentives for bi-directional charging. They have their own separate pilots. How generous is ours as compared to theirs? And do they offer any incentives for the hardware for the bi-directional retrofit? And might it be advisable if we want to be truly competitive, shouldn't we be also offering something at least comparable, if not exceeding what PG&E offers?
Yeah, so PG&E does have their own V2G pilot, but that is specific to the Ford F-150 Lightning. And all of their incentives are front load based in help and support for the charger expense and any nominal upgrades needed to the panel. Caveat to that is Ford is providing the charger with every purchase. There are no incentives by kilowatt hour or for the actual behavior activities. They have no one signed up yet and for the residential side. And then they only have 3 makes and models for buses on the commercial side, no fleet vehicles. And those 3 makes and models have to use a specific charger. So they're incentivizing through that specific charger, also front loaded. And they have 74 signups for that so far. But no one has installed the bi-directional capabilities yet.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Director Davison?
I just want to say 2 things. It's really exciting, though. This pilot program is really exciting. obviously, and we're all fired up with all these questions. So I think that's a great thing. And welcome, Greg, because obviously this is what you're coming into is all these questions and all these curious people and excited people. So welcome. So with that, knowing that PG&E has a program and does SCE down south, or is that different, what you were mentioning? They have something going. How are we targeting the people in the pilot program, or are we? How are you going about starting it off?
Yeah, so we'll be targeting directly the EV customers that we already know of. We have that information from PG&E as well as our EV Sync customers. So we'll be doing direct targeted marketing. And then we'll also be leveraging our partnerships through our EV rebate program. It has grown very successfully in this last year. So we'll be talking to those sales folks as well, letting them know the additional incentives that they can offer their customers when they come in to purchase those vehicles.
Thanks.
All right. Napa County, our clerk just let us know that they don't have their hand raised.
Go ahead.
Are we on? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. We've talked around this, but what if one has a regular charger in their garage, what do we know about the actual cost to upgrade it to bidirectional?
We don't have that defined yet because of the differentiation between the makes and models and the compatibility for those chargers. So that's still a question to be answered.
Okay, thank you.
And I could just quickly add, I did some research, obviously, on what electric vehicles do have bidirectional charging capabilities, and most bidirectional chargers actually run in the $1,000 to $3,000 range, and that does not include any upgrades to the panel, which could obviously increase cost, or it does not include any costs for PG&E's interconnection process, which is also relatively expensive. So there is a bit of a barrier to entry for these bidirectional chargers.
Director Ackerman?
Thank you. Well, I am beyond excited that this is being done. As some of you will remember, I've talked about this before, that I would encourage MCE to get into the lead and begin learning, which is what I see this program for. It's really not so much a matter of the incentives and the cost. Those are relatively minor compared with the larger scale issue of just learning, so that we can expand this, and so that this potentially huge resource of all these batteries out there can eventually start really taking care of the grid. I really appreciated what Vicken said, that this is, in addition to his obvious enthusiasm as well, that this shows us and starts to step further into just the complexity of what the electric procurement and usage process is becoming. It started out in the 1950s as a top-down thing, and it is already much more complicated with prosumers and storage. It's about to just get way more complicated. I appreciated the mention of, I believe it was SCE's pilot or whatever it is, of using having a card so that people could actually use a bidirectional, if I understand the vision, as a bidirectional public charger. That addresses, I may not be understanding what they're actually doing, but that vision is something that is important. I attended the Burke conference, as I do every year, and our keynote was the CEC chairman, who gave a wonderful talk, and a couple of us were asking questions about bidirectional charging and what CEC was thinking about with regard to that. And his answer really surprised me and gave me pause, because I had never thought about this. His answer was that he was concerned about the equity issue of the fact that some of us, such as myself, are lucky enough to have a driveway and a charger and an MCE bill that we can interface with. And so we have the advantage of being able to imagine a day when we can sell energy back to MCE at a higher rate than what we had to pay for it when we charged our cars, do that arbitrage. And but some people don't have that ability. They don't have even a person who is a homeowner but doesn't have a dedicated parking space may not be able to have a car charger. So that equity issue was something that really concerned him. And as a result, he really didn't have any programs that they were interested in pursuing, it seemed like, other than with school buses, which are a great opportunity. School buses tend to, electric school buses can be parked at just the right time of the day. And so he highlighted that program. But I was kind of disappointed to see that kind of roadblock and the idea that this could eventually go to public chargers where you could identify yourself and at the public charger, and then you could sell electricity then as well. I think this is a good way to go. But it is a complex world, and I really applaud MCE and very much encourage MCE to pursue this program and to learn as much as we can. I'll also mention that the chargers that currently exist, there are only a few of them that are coming around. They're still kind of in development. It's all a very shaky thing. But we're in that first phase of technology where standards are an issue, all that stuff. We've all dealt with it with our computers that don't quite talk to our devices, and then eventually they finally do because the industry has gotten together and set a standard for USB and whatever. We're in that, and it's great to get into it at this stage, although it will be messy. So I encourage us to just take that. And then finally, I'd love to say that as we've thought about bidirectional charging in Fairfax at our pavilion, which I've spoken about here, the thing that excites me the most about doing that is to be able to explain it to ordinary citizens who don't think about the electric grid very much. And while it's becoming wildly complex and fantastically interesting, they're really thinking about other things and just paying their electric bill on auto pay. So how do we explain, and meanwhile, really worrying about the climate change and the planet degrading and not really knowing what to do about it. And so I really would love to be able to explain to people this new vision for how energy in our society is managed, and the fact that they can be part of it on all these different levels and actually make money doing so. So that to me is one of the most exciting things about bidirectional charging. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ackerman. Director Thier?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, once again, I'm super excited that MCE is at the forefront of something that, bidirectional charging is not something that most people understand or think about. And a lot of, homeowners don't even have the device to allow them to do it, but yet we're creating a program for the future. And that's what's important. And a program that people are going to use someday. And instead of buying that generator for their house, they're going to figure out they can use their car to power the house, which is a great marketing thing, of course. And when Supervisor Rice was talking, I thought, the idea that we have aging batteries that aren't useful anymore, isn't that an opportunity to create some state legislation or other maybe local legislation to say, when we replace the batteries, let's make them bidirectional? But again, I really want to commend MCE. I want to commend staff for being really at the lead again on something that I think will change the way people use their vehicles, the way people think of selling and buying from the grid in terms of the tariff. And I just wanted to say thank you for your foresight. And I love listening to Vicken. So whatever he says, I'm like, Vicken should have a podcast or something. Anyway.
Director Perkins.
Yeah, I just happened to run a couple of those numbers I mentioned earlier. And this is assuming, as the program has matured to the degree that was in the slides of 100 residential users and 25 commercial users, the credit value, maximum credit value, would be $174,000 per year. That's if everybody maxed out, got their full credit, and that's assuming they're not in a disadvantaged community. So that's 174,000. And if you take that number and you divide it by the rates that were quoted, that would mean that we didn't have to buy 756 megawatt hours. I don't know what the cost is of those 756 megawatt hours, but maybe somebody else on staff does. But that is the net. The 174,000 is the credit that we would give to the customers, and the 174 megawatt hours is the power we wouldn't have to buy to cover those megawatt hours. And just for interest, if you pay less than $3,000 for your bidirectional charger, your payback is better than 20%. And I'll take that kind of investment every day. So you would get better than 20% return on your money if you bought a bidirectional charger system for less than $3,000 total.
Thank you, Director. Yes.
Director Quinto has his hand raised.
Director Quinto.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Jessica. I want to say, with our state senator, Nancy Skinner, she's leaving us at the end of the year. She's termed out, but, I very much appreciate her leadership through the years. It's this out of the box thinking that she has done from day one in the Assembly and then on the state Senate. So she truly is going to be missed. But and this is something that our lobbyists at Cal Cities they just weren't sure about this, and they had difficulties understanding. But what we do at MCE is so forward thinking, and people are coming along on this, and we see our manufacturers, not here in the U.S., but all over the world working on this together. So this is a great thing in the future. And I was mentioning to Katie, we get things on permitting on the air board with things like generators, diesel generators, and so this is something good for the future that will be cleaner air for our communities.
Well, there's also a local side to that Assembly bill. Kurt Johnson, who in San Anselmo and the Climate Center, has done a lot of work to bring that bill to Assemblymember Skinner. So I think there's credit all the way around. And again, I feel a lot of pride for us here in Marin having in this.
I have a question for to me, I was looking at this as this program potentially is $80,000. And if I look at the statement credit maximum of being $70, per month, well, it is more like what Director Perkins was talking about. A lot of the solar programs were based on what's your payback period and how many years. And if the unit itself is $3,000, it's going to be a minimum of $2,000 from an electrician and potentially the PG&E interconnect. This could be a $5,000 upfront cost. And what
makes it 15, and that makes it a 15% return, which I would gladly have.
Well, if you just take the 5,000 divided by the $70 that you could get per month, divided by 12 is a 6-year payback. And so it isn't, I personally think that the 80,000 is better spent as a rebate to somebody to incentivize them to put in the bidirectional charger in their house. And I think that that's going to be the big hurdle, is the cost for somebody to spend the $5,000 outlay to install the charger. And what we need to do is, we don't know, we just know we need more of these bidirectional chargers. That for sure. Nothing will work unless somebody goes and spends the money to put the chargers in. If you don't have those chargers, it doesn't matter what the tariff is. They're never going to use it because they don't have the money to put the charger in place. Similar to solar. It was the upfront cost, and they figured out a great way to lease the equipment and basically lower the entry barriers to entry to the program. So I'm just suggesting for the staff to contemplate taking the $80,000 that we're talking about here and saying, well, what if we gave everybody $1,000 off of their bill to buy one of these chargers? And then our metrics were how many people we could incentivize to put these chargers in place. With that, that would be 80 chargers that we were able to put in the field that eventually will be online and will be eventually doing all the benefits that we know, which with the bidirectional means we can pull that electricity off the grid. But if you don't have the chargers, then none of this is all just mental exercise. We need those chargers. So I would just contemplate, how do we incentivize getting those chargers in the field?
Yeah, I just want to throw out two other points to keep in mind with that thought. The first is that we're really, we're not wanting this program to take off too fast, because we are learning. And as Greg was saying, we'll really benefit from having a slow uptake so that we can adjust as needed. So this is different than some programs where we want everyone to jump in right away and join, and we want to eliminate any barriers right up front. And you're absolutely right, that would be a good way to do that. But the other thing that I think is really important to keep in mind is that we're trying to shift people's the time that they're charging and discharging. That's really the most important part of this program. If we get them a bidirectional charger and then they start sucking from the grid from 4 to 9, we're causing more problems than we've solved. So it's when they're doing the charging and the discharging that is really where the incentive needs to be, and that's why that's the main role of this program. I think we could certainly look at whether we want to be paying for bidirectional charging devices, and that might be a next step to consider, maybe in 6 months after we've had a little bit of experience seeing how things are rolling out. But that's something the board could certainly consider as part of the budget.
Director Nakamura?
So I think that we've had a great conversation, and I really appreciate all the input from everyone. And I'd like to move this item forward and make a motion that we approve the draft bidirectional vehicle pilot program.
I'll second.
We have to have public comment first.
Oh,
Can I-
Chair?
I also had a
Yes.
question.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay.
There's a couple of raised hands.
And
one
San
hand-
Rafael?
Yes, and then there's one online. Director
Director
Hillis?
Hills?
Yeah, I just wanted to glom onto the comment. I think it was by Director Salter on costs. Just to clarify, I think the way the program is designed now is good as a pilot, because I think who you're going to be getting to participate in this are early adopters. Early adopters likely already have transfer switches installed in their house. They already likely have an interconnection arrangement with the grid. So for them, if they don't already have a bidirectional charging enabled vehicle, it would literally just be to buy the charger unit and connect it on, and then they're able to get in the program. Or there's somebody, like you pointed out before, would be somebody that had a Ford F-150 Lightning that already had it available. Now they're able to get a benefit from it as part of the pilot. I do think that as we go further in the future, we may want to consider incentivizing this, because I think this has the opportunity to be successful. Just myself as an early adopter, hearing from it, it makes me want to get rid of my 2019 electric vehicle and figure out if I can get one that is enabled with this. So thank you.
And I'll just add to Director Hillis's comment and the earlier comment. when we're thinking about that front end cost, there's only cost from PG&E for interconnection if you have a vehicle to grid compatible vehicle. So the F-150 is vehicle to grid, but like I said earlier, the majority of the compatible vehicles are compatible at the vehicle to home level, which does not require PG&E interconnection. So that cost will be not for the majority.
Do we have any additional directors that had comments in San Rafael?
Well, I understand people would like to wrap this up, but I too appreciated Director Saltzer's comments, and I'll just say that I actually bought a second charger at MCE's encouragement. MCE helped pay for it for an earlier program, and then that charger company has gone out of business, so I still have the charger, but it doesn't connect with anything. I mean, it charges my car, but and we also well, I'll just leave it at that. But this is again really early. This program, I see it as the goal of it being to learn. And as I said before, the technology is still, it's the Wild West here. And that's just what we're going to be living with for a while. But meanwhile, we will learn so that we can figure out how to deal with this as the technology stabilizes and becomes much more commonplace.
Thank you, Director Ackerman. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment via Zoom? We have a motion on the floor, so I just want to make sure we check.
I see no raised hands, Chair.
All right, so we have a motion by Director Nakamura. Do we have a second? Second by Director Bailey. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Belvedere,
Yes.
Benicia,
Yes.
Concord,
Yes.
Corte Madera,
Yes.
Danville,
Yes.
El Cerrito,
Yes.
Fairfax,
Yay.
Fairfield,
Yes.
Hercules,
Yes.
Lafayette,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Mill Valley,
Yes.
Moraga,
Aye.
Napa,
Yes.
the County of Napa and 4 Napa cities,
Yes.
Novato,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Pinole,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Pleasant Hill.
My final yes.
Thank you.
Oh, like we were supposed to do that, just so you get sympathy. Hello.
Richmond,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
San Anselmo,
Yes.
San Ramon,
Yes.
San Rafael.
Yes.
Thank you. Solano,
Yes.
Hebron,
Yes.
Vallejo,
Aye.
Walnut Creek.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9, board matters and staff matters. Do we have any items that staff or directors would like to discuss?
It's been fun.
Oh,
I would like, oh, sorry. I'd like to share 2 quick things. The first is that Columbia University has a database of all kinds of laws and policies that are climate related. And I have been in touch with them about just a variety of things. And I submitted MCE's green hydrogen procurement guidelines, and they're being reviewed. And if they're posted, I will let you know as kind of a model for utility and energy procurers. So fingers crossed, because that would be exciting. And the second is just that this is my last meeting, and I wanted to say thank you because it's been such an honor to be a part of this organization, and I'm just very grateful and very honored. So thank you all, and see you later.
And I'll just say a couple things too. One, a question first. Did you apply to Columbia Law School?
No, not yet.
All right. And I want to say thank you as well to Dawn and your entire team and to all the directors. This is just a stellar agency. I have the same experience as some of my colleagues. I sit on many boards, regional boards and others, and it's just really amazing what this agency has done. And I encourage the entire board to continue to push MCE to not only be just absolutely at the top of their game and leader in the pack in terms of being an energy provider and customer service, innovation, the whole 9 yards, and then also really being a leader and pushing the industry as a whole. And these kinds of programs that MCE gets going and pilots, I mean, as we've talked about in the past, get shared and modeled here, shared, and they are helping to revolutionize and help our energy system evolve. So keep pressing on this staff to have this agency operate at absolutely the highest level, both for its customers and per its mission about greening our climate. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Just happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Beyonce's playing halftime at the Cowboy game. Just FYI, something to look forward to.
All right. If there aren't any additional comments, then we will move on to adjourning the meeting. Time at 8:23 p.m. I want to thank everyone and have a great evening. Drive safely.